Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. Trevor's back with us. Still no video with him. We're working on it. We talked about it just a couple minutes here before we went live. He's working on it. Hopefully in a couple weeks we can get everything back to normal. Technology's not the easiest always to deal with, and when you're fighting it, it is what it is, and he's fighting it right now, and that's okay, but we're glad to have him here. Again, thanks everybody for listening, watching, wherever you get it. The podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, YouTube. I know some people watch on Facebook, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get it. We do thank you, and just, rate, review, subscribe. That helps us out a lot here. Trev, it was a wild card weekend, and obviously that's where we're going to start. I'm going to let you go first tonight. NFL's your main interest level here at the podcast, so we're going to let you start, and then I'll kind of interject, and we'll talk about some things this week and look ahead to next.
I'm glad you said main interest level instead of my level of expertise, considering I'm last place of the pick and pool in that one. So, that's a better way to put it. Wild card weekend lived up to its name. All the games were really good. We had some classics out there, but we may as well start with the NFC North battle. Your Bears versus the Green Bay Packers. It was an all-time comeback, and just want to kind of get your thoughts as a Bears fan, kind of what you were feeling, obviously in the first half, and then of course the second half, and then I've got a little stat for you after you kind of give your thoughts of the game.
I've got a good stat here, and mine, I saw it, and I think I remember the exact stat, but I'm not 100% sure, so I know I'm close on my stats, but it's not. But first, this is what the Bears do. I mean, this is not the only game. I think it's 7 times this year that they came back in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And I do think I'm 100% on that one. I'm pretty sure on that one. And obviously the second time against the Packers, and 25 points in the fourth quarter is just, you don't see that. But for some reason, Caleb Williams goes into the telephone booth and puts on a Superman cape and then comes out in the fourth quarter, and he's a different player, and they are a different team in the fourth quarter. Now, do I wish, hopefully going forward against the Rams, who are better, and then if they would win that game against the Seahawks or 49ers, who are going to be better, and then in the Super Bowl if they get there, you can't start slow like that. We're going to talk about this later, but Iowa State basketball has started slow the last 3 or 4 games. Well, they played a really good Kansas team at Fog Allen, and you're not able to recover it against good teams. Against mediocre teams, you're able to overcome it. But fourth quarter is amazing, and it's hard to watch them in the first half. And it wasn't just Saturday. And actually, I didn't watch the first half. I don't know if I told you, but this was my Saturday. I was up at 6:15. I drove to Marshalltown, watched Tyler play 3 basketball games. Then I drove to Pekin High School, and I announced 2 games on Steve Shetler Media Radio. And then I drove back to Oskaloosa. I stopped at the Elks to make sure we had all the papers and everything in for the playoffs, and they did. Chris Cassins did a great job getting that organized and in and everything. So great job there. Stopped at the Elks for just a little bit there. They were getting ready for bingo and stuff. And then I came home for just a few minutes, grabbed something to eat. Then I drove to Pella Christian and watched Mason play a basketball game. And that was during the Bears game. So I was driving all over Iowa watching basketball. And then when I got home, it was just about halfway through the third quarter. So I got home and watched the perfect time. But so I was following on my phone, watching basketball for the first 2.5 quarters.
Yeah, you were definitely all over the place, and you missed the worst of the Bears, obviously.
Yeah.
One stat to give you here. This season, when teams are down 10+ points with 5 minutes to go in the game, Caleb and the Bears are 3-3 this year.
Okay.
Yeah, again, down 10 or more with 5 minutes to go. So the Bears are 3-3. The rest of the NFL combined is 3-159. So with Caleb and the Bears, if you're down 10 points with 5 minutes to go, you got a 50-50 chance. If you're the rest of the NFL, you got a 1.89% chance. So
that's a good one. Here's a good one. This was my stat this is a Bears-Packers stat. So they played 3 times this year, very obvious with division rivals and then the playoffs. And the Bears went 2-1. Offensive snaps with the lead in regulation. The Bears, I think it was like the Bears 9 and the Packers were like 106. But I'm going to go like because I might be off a little bit there. I'm going to go the Bears are less than 10 and the Packers were over 100. That's my official thing. But yeah, less than 1% of what less than 10% of what the Packers had, but yet you won 2 out of 3.
Yeah, it all comes down to the final whistle, the final plays. I mean, you got to give the Bears a lot of credit. A lot of teams would start to give up, and Caleb doesn't. Like you said, he goes into the phone booth, puts the cape on, and comes out on top somehow. I mean, that fourth down throw that he had, I don't know where that ranks all time in NFL throws, but that's definitely one of the best throws in Bears history, without a doubt.
Absolutely. I mean, this is only his second year, and he did. I don't think he quite threw for 4,000 yards in the regular season, but it was close. And the Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer. I think he went over 4,000 in that playoff game. That's how close he was. Mm-hmm. But yeah, going to his left, throwing it up perfectly. There's not very many quarterbacks that are going to make that play in the NFL or anywhere. Just, yeah, it's amazing. When he threw it, didn't look like he had much on it, but it was absolutely perfect and right where he needed to be. And then the Bears defense, and maybe the Bears is why I had so much confidence when we were watching Texas Tech. I'm like, they'll score 2 touchdowns here in the last couple of minutes. They'll make it interesting. And obviously they didn't, because I'm used to the Bears scoring twice in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's what the Bears do. I mean, it'll be interesting if it comes down to a close game against the Rams, who they're playing next Sunday night. That'll be the final game, which I'm glad it is. I'm glad the TV networks chose for that to be the final game. It's going to be brutally cold out. The Bears do have some advantages, though. They're at home.
Yep.
They have the kicking advantage. The Rams do have some kicking woes. And the Rams back into their defense. That's their weak link and their kickers. So the Bears do have a lot of good receivers and tight ends. We've seen Loveland step up. Obviously, when that draft pick was made, I know a lot of Bears fans were shocked. The first half of the season, he started out slow. Second half of the season, he's really come on strong. I mean, he's a monster in the passing game now. So
he's the number 1 receiver for the Bears right now. And it's really not close.
Absolutely. And so the Bears will have some advantages. Obviously, the Rams have McVay and Stafford, Super Bowl champions. There's no doubt about that. The Rams are favored. They probably should be. The Bears get down. How much longer can Lady Luck keep going on their side? But there's a lot of mixed stats out there in numbers, and I couldn't quite dial it down. Stafford's win-loss ratio and stats in cold weather, rain, snow, below 32. Then there's some like below 23 degrees. Right. So it's all over the place. And he's got a little bit of a messed up finger potentially. So there are a few advantages for the Bears, but I really am glad that's going to be the final playoff game, though.
Yeah, and then the other stat that I saw in the Bears game was the 4th playoff game. So the first 3 – no, so it was with the Bears – It was during the 49ers game, so it was through the first 4 games, and it was during the 49ers game, and the 49ers scored to take the lead with like 3.5 left. But they made the stat that through the first 4 games, the team that had the lead at the 2-minute warning had lost every game.
Yeah, I saw that stat too. So I kind of figured the Eagles were going to go down and put it in the end zone, just probably like everybody did. Once you saw that stat, it just seemed like one of the wild weekends. But speaking of that game, we can move on to that one. The Eagles' offense has just been really inconsistent all year, and it showed up on that final drive. A.J. Brown had a big drop. Now they ended up converting on the next play thanks to their tight end. But the Eagles' offense has just been off all year. And again, I did pick the Eagles, but I told you last week, that's one I'm glad to be wrong on. I'm happy to see the 49ers moving on to the next round. Shanahan and Saleh and those guys. I mean, it's given all the injuries, it's Shanahan and that coaching staff's probably their best year ever as far as all the circumstances that they've had to overcome with injuries.
Yeah, and then with Kittle going down, and Kittle, it's just the way he is, but it's never dull with him. Obviously, he tore his Achilles, which is awful. So essentially, he's going to be out all next year too. Maybe not quite, but essentially. And he asked for a bottle of tequila. I mean, who would even think of that? And then they show the picture of the owner, York, coming down and giving him a bottle. And it wasn't just Jose Cuervo tequila. It was something a little nicer.
Yeah, only George Kittle is going to do that. And York came down and was talking to him there, obviously in the locker room and the training room. Yeah, you're right. He's going to miss a big chunk of next season. Obviously, if they make the playoffs next year, he may be able to get back to that and really be a contributor. But that sucks that he went down. But again, Purdy had a couple picks, but he bounced back and made the plays when he had to. So good for the 49ers. And yeah, I'm happy to see the Eagles going home.
Yeah, I thought that pick he had early in the fourth quarter was really bad, and I thought that was going to be the end of it. But he comes back, and they pull out the win and set up a great rematch with the Seahawks. And I think, I'm leaning the Seahawks right now. I haven't made my picks yet for sure. We're going to make some picks here in a little bit, but I think the 49ers are going to give them a better game than they did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think so too. 49ers have all the experience in the world compared to the Seahawks coaching staff and a lot of the players, of course. So I think it'll be a close game. I'm leaning the Seahawks too, most likely, but we can do our picks here in a little bit. That should be a good one. And the final NFC game, I guess we could touch on real quick, Rams and Panthers. Rams looked like they were going to probably blow the Panthers out.
Yep.
Just made a decision there before half. It ended up costing them kind of a 10-point swing. And that ended up coming down again to the final drive. Stafford gets the ball back and makes enough plays. To me, that's the reason that he's the MVP this year, even though I think they vote on it before this round of the playoffs. But another close game. I told you last week I would have taken the Panthers plus 10.5, and they lost by 3. But it was a really good showing by the Panthers. But in my opinion, the better team moved on.
I agree. And I think it just goes to show you just got to get in and, those teams that finish, back in the day, 9-7, 8-8, getting in the playoffs because they're division winners. Hosting a playoff game is really important, especially when the Rams had to travel all the way across the country. It wasn't like the Packers driving, they probably still flew, but maybe even just driving right down, the interstate to Chicago. They had to fly across the country. Panthers hadn't hosted a playoff game, I would assume, since Cam Newton was a quarterback. So it had been a while. That crowd was up for it. They've got a young quarterback. They got a relatively new coach. They're kind of thinking they're up and coming. I don't think they're expecting to go to the Super Bowl, but they're following that football team, and they gave the Rams everything they wanted and more.
Yeah, and Carolina's going to pick up Bryce Young's fifth-year option, which I'm fine with that because I think it's not that much money. Overall, it's way under the league average for a quarterback on yearly average. So it's worth the risk, in my opinion, rather than giving him some big deal or bringing in a free agent. Right. Bryce Young has proven enough at least to get a couple more seasons. So good for them. It was a great game. And then, we flip over to the AFC side. The Bills-Jaguars, probably for most people, the toughest game to pick, or at least one of them. And Josh Allen goes into Superman mode like he does. The final drive, pulls it out. The Jags get the ball back, and they didn't have to press the issue because, again, they only need a field goal to tie. Trevor Lawrence takes a chance on a pass there when he didn't have to because there was plenty of time left. It wasn't like it was fourth down or last play of the game. It was too risky of a pass in that situation, and the Bills ended up getting in the interception and moving on.
Josh Allen's Stafford is the MVP this year, and he's a Super Bowl champ. But Josh Allen's the best quarterback left. And he proved it. And if he plays like Superman, we're going to call out the cape again. He goes into the phone booth, only he does it for the entire game and puts the entire team on his back with the cape. That's what he has to do for that team this year. If he plays like that, they're going to be a tough out.
Absolutely. And he got banged up in that game, his knee, his head, he hit his hand on a helmet.
Yep.
First thing first was talking about, I think it was Big Cat or someone on Barstool had a good idea. He said if I ran an NFL team, he'd make it mandatory that all the offensive linemen wear the Guardian caps.
Oh, I agree.
To prevent this, less likely of this happening for the quarterback.
At least, most of the time there's 9 guys rushing. are in that position, 5 offensive linemen and 4 D linemen. Yeah, so at least if you have half the people with those caps on, you're going to save a little bit.
It's not the worst idea I've ever heard, even though I don't, the Guardian caps look goofy out there.
Oh, they do, but
it's a good idea though. I got to give him credit on that one. But Josh Allen's got some Brett Favre in him. He's all banged up. People are worried about that. I think come kickoff, it's not going to matter. They'll give him a shot or whatever they got to do, and for 3 hours, he'll be running on adrenaline. I'm not that worried about it. His injuries. He's a tough guy. He doesn't miss games at all. So I expect him to put on a heck of a performance come Saturday.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. He's hurt. So's everybody else that's playing for the most part. He might be a little more hurt than most, but he's going to, do whatever he needs to do to play, and he's going to play well. Whether that's enough or not, we'll find out Saturday, but he's going to give it everything he has for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. And, 2 games left real quick that were probably 2 of the more boring ones, I guess you could say, the AFC games. Patriots, Chargers. That game was close for a while. I thought Harbaugh made a mistake on that first fourth down. They went for not taking 3. You could tell that the offense really wasn't clicking. Would that have made a difference at the end of the day? I don't know. Probably not. Patriots were the better team, but probably should have known better. The Chargers offensive line, PFF, had it rated as bad as they've seen in a long time. They've never seen an offensive line rated that bad that's ever gone on to win a playoff game, which I knew that before the game, and I still picked the Chargers just because I thought their experience might get them over. But good on the Patriots. Drake May had a couple of, he had a couple moments, but that's not surprising for a first
playoff game. Yeah.
So they'll face the Texans. And then, of course, the final game, Steelers-Texans, which was close for a while.
Yeah, it was 7-6 for most of the game. I mean, it got out of hand there late with the 2 defensive touchdowns and then the late rushing touchdown. But that game was much, much closer than the score ended up.
Yeah, Stroud had 5 fumbles. Now, he only lost 2, but he could not have 5 fumbles next week. I mean, that you're typically going to lose a game if your quarterback fumbles 5 times. And the offense just isn't clicking. But
no,
the defense we'll talk about here once we go through the 4 divisional matchups. There's some real interesting stats on the defense, which is obviously the side of the ball that's carrying the Texans.
Yeah, the snaps were bad. He was just not catching the ball on snaps that were okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then he threw a pick that was the one at the 5-yard line was just awful. Thank God they have a great defense. I mean, that's real, and that's why they're there. I mean, don't kid yourself. That's why they're there. But yeah, Stroud cannot play like that, or they will lose, and they could lose bad if a couple of those, like the Texans are doing to other teams, if one of those gets returned for a touchdown or one of his fumbles gets picked up in his own near the end zone, and only requiring the offense of the other team to go 10 yards. Kind of like the Hawkeye defense from a few years ago, where there was a fumble or a sack and they would hold them to 3, and they only got 5 yards, but the offense put them in such bad position that they were able to be successful with it, and sometimes you still lose. It's going to be close game. It's going to be a close game, I think, on when they play, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so let's go through in order of the games. We'll start on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Broncos Bills is going to be the first one. The weather is going to be good.
Yep.
It's going to be 3:30 Central Time there in Iowa. Bills at Broncos. The weather is going to be perfectly fine. Close to 50 degrees during the day. So I don't know if that's going to really favor either team. You got any strong feelings on this one?
I'm just going to go with the most experience for this. Now, again, for our online pool and for the Whitford Memorial pool, I'm not saying this is my pick, but for the Morgan You Asked For podcast one, I am picking the more experienced quarterback and Josh Allen to go into Denver and upset.
Yeah, same here. I'll text Chris my official picks either Thursday or Friday. But for this one, I am going to go with the Bills, and just a couple of Josh Allen stats. Most playoff games in NFL history in the Super Bowl era where a quarterback has 3 or more touchdowns and no interceptions. Brady's done it 8 times. Mahomes has done it 6. Allen's done it 6. And then if you look at Allen in the playoffs, in his career, total yards per game, 309.5. That's first all time. Total TD to interceptions, 35 touchdowns, 4 picks. That's first all time. And passer rating, 102.4. That's fourth all time. Again, this is minimum 200 attempts. Josh Allen actually gets better in the playoffs statistically. There's very few quarterbacks that have ever done that in the history of the league. We know the 13-second game. His defense let him down. There's been some other things, but Allen actually raises his level of play in the playoffs. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Bills to squeak by as well. I worry about Bo Nix. Obviously, he got a little bit of experience last year, but Allen's way more experienced in the playoffs than Bo Nix is, and that's going to be my deciding factor in this one.
It's just quarterback experience, and now Sean Payton has that experience of a Super Bowl winning coach and just a successful coach in general. So that sways it a little bit. McDermott's never been able to get over the hump in the playoffs, but he does have a lot of experience. I think with that win at Jacksonville, I don't think he needs to worry about his job, and we're going to talk about coaching jobs here in a few minutes. But I think this is the Bills' chance. I don't know if they can get all the way there or win it, but I think this week for sure they have to like this matchup. And if Josh Allen plays like he can, it's just Josh Allen's too much for the Broncos.
Yep, as long as Allen doesn't have any turnovers.
Yep.
The Bills also have the number one pass defense too. So if they can somehow contain R.J. Harvey in the Broncos running game, that could put Bo Nix into some tough passing situations. So we'll see how that one plays out. You and I both like the Bills. The night game on Saturday, 7 p.m. Iowa time, 49ers at Seahawks. Seahawks are about a 7.5 point favorite. I am going to take Seattle to win, but I'm thinking like a 20 to 17-ish type game. I would definitely take the 7 or 7.5 with the 49ers.
I'm with you on that. I'm leaning the Seahawks. I'm going to pick the Seahawks to win the game, but definitely if you're betting the spread, I'm 100% with you. I'm taking the 49ers and taking to cover that. I think it's a close game. I think the injuries, they've got to catch up with the 49ers. I think not having Kittle, fourth quarter drive, obviously he was able to do it this last weekend, but I think it will come back. He's looking for his safety net, and he's just not there.
Yeah,
now, but McCaffrey is he's the other safety net, and he is unbelievable. And I was listening to some people, I think it was Travis and Ross on the Rush in the morning, and they're both Hawkeye fans. And I think one of them asked the other one, does it make you feel any better about that Stanford-Iowa game in the Rose Bowl when you see McCaffrey able to do it against NFL guys for 10 years too?
Yeah. No, that I was at that Rose Bowl with the friends, Taylor and Al and Mish and Ty West. Yeah, the very first play of the game, McCaffrey goes the entire distance for a touchdown, and the game was basically over from that point. But hey, it was still cool to be there.
No, absolutely.
McCaffrey he's amazing, and he could start in the NFL at receiver. I mean, he could play slot receiver full time. It wouldn't even matter. So, the weather's not going to be a problem. The Saturday games, weather's not going to be an issue.
Yep.
And for the Seahawks, it's Darnold. Does he turn into a pumpkin?
Right.
Or does he take care of the football? Because he doesn't have to necessarily have a monster game. I mean,
he doesn't have to. He is not asked to be Superman like Josh Allen. He is not asked to do that.
The fastest defense in the league might be Seattle. Now, the overall best one might be the Texans, but Seattle's got a ton of speed. So they've had a week off. We'll see if there's rust. Kind of the same thing with the Broncos, of course. These younger teams, how do they deal with the extra time off? Now, these are professionals. They'll deal with it better than the college kids are, which we've seen in the college playoffs. But that's something to keep an eye on. Weather won't be a factor. To me, can Darnold afford one turnover? Maybe. But if he has two or more turnovers, all of a sudden you're looking at the 49ers pulling the upset and going to the NFC Championship game.
I'm with that. Seahawks lean, but definitely the 49ers are in the game all 60 minutes.
All right, so we're on the same side so far. The early game on Sunday, Texans at Patriots, 2 p.m. Central Time. There is going to be a chance of snow. Again, the Texans traveling on the road back-to-back just like the Bills and Niners and some of these other teams are. What will the snow affect them? Drake May looked human finally in that playoff game, and the Texans defense is comparable. I've got the stat written down here. So the Texans defense, their last 3 playoff wins over the last 3 seasons, their defense has allowed 32 points, but their defense has scored 32 points on its own. And they're allowing 16.7 points per game. The 2015 Broncos were allowing 17.9. So they're actually a little bit better than the 2015 Broncos that won the Super Bowl.
I'd say that's the one with Manning, couldn't throw it, but
and CJ Stroud's kind of the same thing. I mean, he's younger, but still struggling. And the Texans are 12-0 when scoring 20 or more points. And the last 6 teams to do that were the 15 Panthers, 09 Saints, 09 Colts, 07 Patriots, 06 Bears, and 05 Seahawks. All 6 of those teams went on to make the Super Bowl. Now, they didn't win it, but they all made the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I am leaning the Texans here. I think the Patriots are a little bit too experienced. You can say what you want about C.J. Stroud not playing well. He has been in the playoffs multiple games and multiple years, and that defense is really, really good. And Drake May's a young guy.
He definitely is. I almost want to pick the Texans, but I'm probably going to lean the Patriots. I think C.J. Stroud might make 1 or 2 mistakes in this one, and
he definitely could. I mean,
the Patriots actually have a competent offense that might be able to, get some points off those turnovers, unlike the Steelers this previous week. So I think I'm leaning Patriots in this one right now, but man, that Texans defense is the real deal. And I know the Bills play the first game, but if the Bills win, the Bills better hope the Patriots win. Because the last 2 times that Josh Allen has played against the Texans, it's been 2 of his worst games of his career.
So they got him figured out.
They've got him figured out. So if the Bills win, it sounds funny to say because they'd be playing him for a 3rd time. They'd be rooting for the Patriots, I'm sure. Plus, it's a shorter travel, and they know him.
And if Houston and the Bills win, Houston would host, right?
Correct.
Because so the Bills aren't. It's not hoping Houston wins just so they can host. So they're on the road no matter what. So that doesn't matter. So, yeah, they really are wanting to play the Patriots for sure.
Yeah, the last 2 times Josh Allen's played the Texans has been in Houston, and he's had atrocious performances. So if the Bills do win, they have to take care of business first. They may not say it out loud, but I'm sure their fans are thinking, let's play the Patriots instead.
Absolutely. I'm sure they are. I hadn't thought of that as much, or that's a good pickup by you to get that. So you're leaning the Patriots there, but it's most of these games. Are we going to be shocked if I was very lucky in Whitford's Memorial Pool that I was undefeated this week, but this week can I go 0-4? Absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't shock me one bit.
I was feeling pretty decent when I started out 3-0, and then I went 0-3 the final 3 games. So, these games are all kind of a coin flip. I mean, even the Seahawks spread is the biggest one at 7. But again, if Darnold turns into a pumpkin, I mean, the 49ers could easily win that. And then, that leads us to the final game. And hopefully what ends up being a really good game is the Rams at the Bears Sunday night, 5:30 Iowa time. And it's going to be brutally cold there. I don't know about any snow yet, but it's going to be frigid.
And that definitely helps the Bears. Stafford is not good outside, and we kind of talked about it a few minutes ago. Soldier Field, is it the best stadium in the NFL? Absolutely not. But they were talking about it last week. When the Bears are good, that place is super loud. It's rocking. It shakes. It is crazy, and they are crazy for the Bears this year. Chicago, the Bears have been really bad for a really long time. Yes, they had the 1 year a few years ago where they were the 1 or 2 seed and had the double doink, and then another time, they were favored in the NFC Championship game, hosted the Packers, and Rodgers went in and beat them. But overall, they've been bad for a long, long time, 30 years, 40 years almost. 40 years since the Super Bowl. They really haven't been that good since. And it is a Bears town. And one of the David Kaplan, he does Cubs, Bears. He's a sports talk show guy out of Chicago, and he goes, it's always Bears heavy, but it's not even close now. It's all the Bears. They don't even want to talk about the Cubs. They don't want to talk about the White Sox. They don't want to talk about the Bulls, and they don't want to talk about the Blackhawks. And, you know, the Blackhawks have won 3 Stanley Cups in the last 15 years. Now, it's been a while. They won 3 and 6, but it is not even close at how much that is a Bears town. And when they win, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, watching that game versus the Packers, I mean, that stadium and that crowd looked awesome. And after watching that game, I was thinking, I mean, the Bears are crazy for wanting to move out of there. The backdrop of the city and that stadium with like the press boxes, it looks awesome on TV. Now, I haven't been there in person, but it looks amazing on TV. The crowd was pumped up. And no matter what happens in this Rams game, you know, this Bears season has been an absolute success. You got the right coach, you've got the right quarterback. If they end up losing this, and you beat, you know, Green Bay on just a crazy fourth quarter to end their season. So, I mean, besides, you know, I know if you win this game, you go to the NFC Championship game, but besides getting to the Super Bowl and winning it, I mean, this season has been it's been an A. I don't, you know, getting to the Super Bowl or winning it would be an A+, but the future of the Bears over the next 10 years looks really, really good right now.
Yeah, as a Bears fan, I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words, even what to say, but it's exactly what we wanted. We want to get one more. Just, you are the 2 seed. Let's not get technically upset. I understand we're an underdog in this game. Would you say the spread was 5?
So last I saw, it was 4.5 for the Rams. Now it's been changing a lot, so that it could be down to 3.5 or 5. I'm not sure. I haven't looked yet today.
Yeah, so they are an underdog, and I think I saw it at 5 one time, or one place. I shouldn't even say one time, one place. I can't remember what place that was, but they need to win this game just for, let's not get upset seed wise, because we earned that 2 seed. You know, we beat teams. We kind of backdoored at the end into that with teams losing, but with the Eagles, sitting their team, but we earned this second home game. Let's take advantage of it. Give the Bears fans what they want. And obviously we're going to know if we're going to host if we win or lose, or if we're going to travel to Seattle. If the 49ers pull the upset, then we're going to have another one. And it's another team that isn't used to being in cold weather. Now, Brock Purdy's played in cold weather being at Iowa State, but he's still an Arizona boy. So he's not, the only time he's been cold is the few games at Iowa State. And in a couple games in the NFL, I'm sure he's been, I couldn't tell you exactly when they played everybody and if it's been cold, but it's not cold in San Francisco. And then obviously it's not cold in LA. And then Stafford played a long, long time for the Lions. Now, I do think that helps Stafford himself. He's played a lot of times in Soldier Field, not always in bad weather, but he knows that place well, being, what was he in with the Lions, 10 years, 12 years?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it's going to help. Obviously, he knows the stadium. He'll probably have good advice to a lot of the players, what cleats to wear, what kind of depth on the cleats you want to go, what kind of gloves you want to wear, all that type of stuff that'll definitely help. And you're right, though. As far as seeding goes, I mean, obviously, if the Bears win and as you mentioned, the 49ers win, the Bears do get to host the NFC Championship game. So, yeah, you don't want the season to end now. It's just, was that win over the Packers, are they able to come back emotionally? And a lot of people are, surprisingly to me, and it may happen, kind of expecting a high-scoring game in this, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is 17-10, Rams leading with 10 minutes to go in the fourth, just with it being that cold out. I mean, I could see some drop passes. You're going to find out who really wants to be out there, who doesn't, and you may see some players slipping and falling on the field. So we'll see if it ends up being high scoring or not. But just with as cold as it's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit lower scoring.
Yeah, me either. And the wind has so much effect, and obviously being right on the lake, the wind could have a huge effect on that game.
And special teams, that's where the Bears could come in and take advantage of the Rams special teams in this one. So pay attention to special teams in this game specifically.
So for the podcast, I'm going to take my heart and take the Bears.
I want to do the Bears as well, but I'm going to go with the Rams, Super Bowl champs, experience, sort of the same thing I'm doing with the Bills, even though they don't have the Super Bowl, but they've got the quarterback with a lot more playoff starts. Yep. And the coach with actually the coaches in the Bills and Broncos. The Broncos actually have the more experience in Super Bowl
right.
coach. Yep. But in this instance, McVay and Stafford is where I'm putting my trust.
Yeah. One kind of side note with the Rams, Nate Shieldhouse, former Iowa State offensive coordinator, and I think he was receivers coach, and just kind of left to go to the Rams a few years ago. And I would be shocked, and I think I have seen it reported where Iowa State called him to see if he was interested in the job this year, and he said no. And he is getting interviews for jobs. I think he's had – I don't know the timeline when they're able to do it, but I think he's been asked to interview for 3 jobs, and I know the Steelers put in for it today. So I don't know if he has to wait till his season's over or in between – that Super Bowl week. I know there's strict timelines. Unlike college football, the NFL actually has rules that teams and people have to go by. But Nate Shieldhouse is on the fast track of being an NFL head coach, or at least a true coordinator real soon. And I know the Steelers were one of them, and I think the Browns were another.
Yeah, he's a hot name right now. We may as well move into the NFL coaches real quick. Obviously, yep. Mike Tomlin stepped out, but you're right. Shieldhouse is interviewing. The Steelers want to get a hold of him. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the Steelers like hiring younger guys, and they want someone that's going to be there 10-plus years.
Yeah, that's we talked about with Harbaugh last week. With him and Tomlin switch, I think even might have said that on this podcast. And overall, I think that would be a good hire, Harbaugh. But that's not what the Steelers do, because he's not going to be there for 10 or 15 years. I don't think. They're going to go, and the one I don't know is I don't know how old Brian Flores is. He would be another one that would fit the profile if he's young enough. I just don't know how old he is. Should have looked that up. I didn't. But Nate Shieldhouse is exactly who the Steelers go after. He's probably 35 years old, be there for 20 years. He's 55, and, he could even stay for 30 years. I mean, who knows what it would be if it works out, obviously. And just speaking of Tomlin, 19 years, never had a losing season, 13 playoffs, 1 Super Bowl championship. And everything that, Adam Schefter and the Steelers have put out, that he is not interested in coaching next year. So he's going to take a year off. And in saying that, there's a reason for that, is this because he resigned and was not fired, the Steelers still own his rights. So it'd be much like the Sean Payton situation when he went to Denver. Denver would have to get, or whoever would hire him, and this year or next year would have to give the Steelers some compensation for him.
Right. If a team wanted to bring him in, they'd have to give, draft picks. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a first, but,
right.
The Giants wanted to bring him in immediately. Might have to give a couple thirds or something like that, which to get Mike Tomlin would probably be worth it. Real quick on the Steelers, a name that is being mentioned for like the Cardinals and some other jobs, but I think the Steelers are going to give him a hard look, is Robert Saleh, defense coordinator of the Niners. He's only 46 years old, and he kind of fits that Tomlin profile. Tough, brash, very confident, very charismatic. I mean, I could see Robert Saleh getting that job too. He's young enough, and that's another candidate that hasn't been mentioned for that job, but I think they're going to give him a strong look.
Yeah, he fits that profile as well. The Rooneys. I'm not a Steelers fan, but you trust the Rooneys to make the right decision. So whoever they hire, their track record speaks for itself, that they know what they're doing. They have, the Steeler way. I don't know if that's what they call it or whatever, but whatever they're doing there, they know what's going on. So their process is pretty good. And, they even have the Rooney rule after him, is to give everybody a chance. And Tomlin was one of those guys that you had never heard of, really. And he got that job and was very good at it from the moment he got the job. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, them and the Ravens, I mean, exceptionally run organizations. It was funny because Steve Biscotti was giving a press conference and they broke the news that Tomlin was stepping down. And then you probably saw it. They asked him, well, would you bring him in? He goes, well, only if Harbaugh goes to the Steelers. Kind of a switch. Like we talked. I don't think either. No, I don't think they would do that, though. It would be Tomlin and Harbaugh are kind of old school. It'd probably be almost a slap in the face. They have too much respect for each other that either one of them take each other's jobs, their former job, I should say. So I don't think it would happen, but it was kind of a funny interview that he was given, obviously when the news broke.
Now, obviously, Tomlin resigned, but do you think there was some pressure, or was this truly his decision? Or he just felt, I'm not even saying his decision, but he just felt like it was just time for a change, or was there pressure from the Steelers?
I don't think there's pressure from the Steelers. I think they would have let him finish out his contract because that's how they do things. I think it was more that game a few weeks ago, whenever it was, when the crowd was chanting fire for him to be fired. And again, all these straight playoff losses where they haven't really even been that competitive. They've been blown out in a lot of them. He knew it was time, and good for him. He saw the writing on the wall, as we all did. It was just time for a change. Andy Reid in Philadelphia, coached there a long time, made a Super Bowl, made all those NFC Championships games. But eventually there comes a time where your voice just loses its power in the locker room, and it's time for a change. Happened to Andy Reid, happened to Harbaugh in Baltimore, and it happened to Tomlin in Pittsburgh. And again, Harbaugh and Tomlin, if they want jobs, they'll get them immediately.
Yep. If they want a job, they definitely will get it. Any other? Nobody's made a hire yet, have they? And now some of that is because you can't announce a hire until that person is done, their season is over. But if someone wanted to hire Harbaugh, could they hire him today? They could hire him today, right?
I believe so, because he's
he got fired, and he's his season's over.
The only other news that I would point out is Mike McDaniel, the former Dolphins coach. I think he's done 2 interviews now with the Lions for their OC job. That would be a very big get for the Lions, in my opinion, if they can land him. Now, I believe he is interviewing for some head coaching jobs, which obviously he'll want to take those if he gets offered them. But being the Lions OC would not be a bad second place landing spot, and I'm sure the Lions would love to get him.
Yeah, I think he'd be really good at that. But I did see he's interviewed for like the Browns and the Cardinals, and you're not going to turn down a head job once you've already been a head coach. You're not going to go back to OC unless you kind of really have to.
Right, unless you have to. And the only other one I would point out is I did see something earlier today, and again, with the internet, who knows if it's true. I didn't take the time to look it up, but it does sound like there is an announcement coming tomorrow from Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame. Now, that may be more to do with that little incident on the basketball court, which really wasn't an incident from everything that I read. Maybe that's all it is, but there are some people wondering if he is, maybe the Steelers have reached out to him.
Right, and he would fit the Steelers profile. Absolutely, he would. Young guy, charismatic, Midwestern. I mean, he would fit the Steelers profile as well, much like Nate Scheelhaase. Same type of person.
Yep. So we'll see if that thing that I saw was actually real or if it was just a stupid post like we see on Instagram. And as we talk about here many times, it gets tiresome trying to look up all this stuff to see if it's real or not. But we'll find out more tomorrow if that's accurate or not. But I think that's about it for the coaching stuff.
Okay. Now, any other news in the NFL? Just not even coaching, anything else there? I don't believe so, but is there anything you want to bring up?
No, just one draft note, I guess. Obviously, Dante Moore is going to go back to Oregon. You probably saw that earlier today. Which is that an indictment on the Jets? Potentially, yes. He's obviously going to get but this we've also talked about this too. This is one of the benefits though of NIL is these college players, quarterbacks most notably, but other positions, they will stay at a program another year because they're getting paid so much money. And I saw the entire defensive line for Oregon's coming back, so they're basically running it back for one more year to try to potentially get to a national title and win it.
Yeah, he's going to get $5 million, I would assume, or maybe more from Oregon. And again, go win 11 games, 10 games, unless something haywire happens, and have a chance to win it all. Now, I did see, and again, this is the same thing. I don't know if it's true or not, but Dylan Raiola just had committed to Oregon, and now he's back in the portal because Dante Moore's coming back. So is that an indictment on Dylan Raiola that he's not as good as Dante Moore, which I 100% agree he's not as good, but now he's back in the portal looking to go somewhere else.
Okay, is he officially back in? Because I wasn't sure.
Again,
yep.
post on Instagram or Twitter. I can't remember which one I saw. So I would believe it. I mean, I would, if I commit to a program expecting to be the number one guy, and then all of a sudden the number one guy that led them to the semifinals comes back, I'm looking around, hey, I'm not your guy. I'm probably going to go back in the portal as well. I mean, I don't blame him, but it's not necessarily a good look.
No, not a good look, and we'll have to see if he does go back in the portal where he ends up, because Texas Tech got their guy, LSU got their guy, obviously Oregon has theirs, Ohio State, Indiana got Hoover from TCU. I assume he's going to be their starter next year, more than likely.
Yep.
Or he's going to compete with Mendoza's younger brother at least. So if he does go back in the portal, it will be interesting to see where he ends up. Michigan's got their guy. I'm just thinking out loud. Alabama's got a young prospect that they like a lot. I don't know his name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Maybe Miami, because Beck's going to graduate.
No, it was, I think Ty Simpson, who's going to the NFL, said that read something, or he interviewed and gave an interview that said that Miami offered him all kinds of money to come there.
Okay. Well, if it is true, I'd put my money on Miami going after Raiola, because then he could be their starter for multiple years after Beck graduates.
Yeah. Speaking of like Miami and talking about that, let's go to Indiana-Miami championship game Monday night. Now let's go back to the semis. Indiana looks unstoppable. They put it to Oregon. It was from the first play, the pick six, Indiana made short work of Oregon. And obviously Miami, getting the home team, they're physical, they've shown and they've proved, and we talked about it, that D-line is elite, that defense is elite, and they're really, really good. And they were underrated all year. They lost 2 games they shouldn't have, very candidly. And Indiana looks to be unstoppable, but it would not shock me one bit if Miami wins this thing.
No, I think the spread's 7.5, and yeah, obviously Indiana looks unstoppable. I mean, that pick six to start the game, Oregon bounced back with a nice drive, but after that, essentially the game was over. Miami had their hands full of Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss gave them all they wanted. We talked about it. I mean, the Disney movie almost continued for another week.
Yeah.
You got to tip your hat to the Ole Miss guys. Kind of going into this championship game, spread 7.5 last I saw. And let's talk about a couple stats. You've probably seen these over the games, but penalties per game, Indiana's 4th in the nation at 3.5. Miami's 113th in the nation at 7.2. And that game versus Ole Miss, Miami had a ton of penalties. If they do that versus Indiana, that's probably going to be the tiebreaker, right? If it's a close game, or even if it's not close, that's going to be the thing that costs them. And then turnover margin, Indiana's plus 21 and Miami's plus 11, which plus 11's, that's not bad by any means, but plus 21 for Indiana. So, Indiana doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Their receivers hardly ever drop the ball. I mean, they catch everything that Mendoza throws. He throws it pretty accurate most of the time. If it comes down to kickers, Carter Davis, Miami's kicker, he's 17 for 23 on the year, 49 for 49 on extra points. Nico Radici or whatever you say it, he's 16 for 17 on field goals. But he's also 84 for 84 on extra points. So neither kicker's missed an extra point. Davis for Miami, his long is 53, and then Nico's long is 46. So, if it's a close game, maybe the kickers will come into play on this. But penalties, look for penalties in this game, because if Miami comes out sloppy, Indiana could take advantage of that.
Did you know that Mendoza's dad and Cristobal went to high school together? Kind of a small world. And Mendoza's from Miami. I mean, obviously from Miami, and wanted to play for the Hurricanes, and they didn't want him.
I found that out a couple weeks ago, and then of course they were talking about it during the game. But I didn't know that before that, though. Of course.
Yeah, it's such a small world, and it's great he's playing back in his hometown. And our friend Doug DeCock is headed down there, not going to the game, but got a parking spot near Hard Rock. And so him and his son are going down there and going to party. Maybe not quite party like 1985 Miami Hurricanes, but maybe 60-year-old Miami Hurricane parties. But Michael Irvin's 60, and Michael Irvin looks like he's still partying in 1985.
Yeah, well, I mean, a parking spot's as much as a football ticket should be. I mean, the tickets are outrageous to that game. I can't even believe it. Obviously, Miami being the home team. Obviously, that's a big advantage that we didn't even talk about yet.
Yeah,
for Miami. But no, good for Doug and his son and whoever else they meet up with. I wouldn't be surprised if Doug, halfway through the first quarter, finds someone willing to sell some tickets, and
right.
He and his boy get in there maybe at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second, and at least get to watch 3/4 of the game maybe.
Yeah, he can talk his way into a lot of places. I know that
for sure. So I will not be surprised if they get into that game somehow. But I know he's not going to pay the prices right now, nor should he, nor would I. I mean, the tickets are just outrageous to get into that game.
Now it would be. I mean, just like he's doing, he's like, I can't get into the game, but being there is just awesome. I had some friends that were Cardinals fans, and when they won Game 6 and Game 7, I believe it was against the Rangers in like 2011 or whatever it was, they went to Game 6, and then they won on the walk-off home run, and then they just stayed for Game 7. They didn't have tickets, but they just stayed and were around the stadium and everything, and it was awesome.
Yeah, if you get an opportunity to go to something like that, even if you can't go to the game, if your team wins, everybody's out celebrating in the streets. I mean, my old roommate was from the Cleveland area, so when LeBron had that big comeback versus the Warriors, he was there in Cleveland. I don't know if he went to any of the games or not, but he's got a picture of him and his family out on the streets, holding up the flags and everything, champions. So, yeah, Doug, and I don't blame it all for going. This, kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And if Miami ends up pulling this upset, it'll feel like 1985 again.
Yeah. All right.
What's your prediction on the game, by the way?
I'm going to take, for the podcast here again, we're in a college football pool on the internet there as well. For this podcast, I'm not going to say that's who I'm going to pick for that one. I am going to take Indiana, but I think this is a dog. I don't think Indiana is going to do to Miami what they did to Oregon and what they did to who they beat in the first one. Alabama. Yeah. I was just brain fart there. They've made pretty quick work and easy work of both of those teams. I don't think they're going to do that to Miami, but would it completely shock? Like you said, a crucial crucial penalty, or just a little bit too hyped up, and they have a couple penalties, and say they jump off sides and Mendoza has a free play and he chucks it up and they make the catch, just a ball he wouldn't throw normally, but he knows he has a free play because that defensive end is coming off the edge so quick and wants to get to him. He's smart enough to just throw it up and give his receiver a chance. And if they make the play, there's a quick 7, or defensively a turnover by Beck, who's not great, but does just enough for his team. But if he makes a critical mistake or a fumble, if they get off early, I could see them running away with it. But I just think Miami's a little bit too talented to let that happen, especially in their home stadium.
Yeah, Miami's definitely got a lot of speed, and they've got a lot of first-round picks, which will be a big factor in this game. I'm probably going to take Indiana by about 10. I think they're, like I said, 7.5 or 8.5 point favorites right now. I just think they're too disciplined to lose this game as long as they don't have any major turnovers or penalties themselves. Now, it will be interesting. I mean, obviously it's a national title game, so we'll see. Does Indiana have uncharacteristic penalties?
Yeah.
Does Mendoza throw a bad pick or something, a costly turnover? Do they have some drops? I mean, these are young athletes that we're talking about, so it could definitely happen. But I'm leaning Indiana right now by about 10.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me one bit. I think it's going to be a good game, and I love watching championship games. and you hit the nail on the head there right at the end. It's you would talk about Miami being hyped up because of home. Well, Indiana's never been here either. And these kids are going to be hyped up, and they're going to have, yes, Miami's the home team, but Indiana's never been in this situation. Miami hasn't been in it for a generation, 25 years, 20 years, whatever it's been. Miami's used to it, but it's been a while, so they're hungry. But Indiana fans, I mean, it'd be like if Iowa State got there. I mean, that's the comparable program. I know it's expensive and everything, but if Iowa State's playing a national championship game, I'm headed to Miami this weekend. Might be like Doug DeCock, might not be in the game, but I might even just ponied up and said, heck with it, I'm going to the game. I would have figured it out. I'd have been in Miami just because you don't know when you'll ever get back there, and you've never been there before. And like they said, the price of all this stuff, well, Indiana's never had to spend money to do this, so they've saved their money for 50 years.
Yeah, outside of basketball, they haven't had to do anything for football. So yeah, it's definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity. I think I heard something that the tickets are split to a certain percentage, and then the other tickets are open to whoever wants to buy them. So I would assume Indiana is going to have more fans, but we'll see though.
And just Indiana was supposed to be good. No one can predict they're going to play for a national championship, but Indiana was supposed to be good. So there would have been a handful of Indiana fans that might have bought national championship tickets right when they came out, just because, well, if we don't go, then we'll just sell them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've done that for NCAA tournament. Like last year, I bought the tickets to Milwaukee well before the NCAA tournament. I bought the Big 12 championship tickets well before the Big 12 championship. That was a dumb financial move on me. I didn't lose money, but I definitely could have got way better seats for way less money if I'd have just waited. But I didn't know. And if it would have been the right two teams like this year where it was Texas Tech and BYU, it was sold out because of Texas Tech. If it would have been Texas Tech last year and Iowa State, it probably would have been sold out. So I would have been fine. But with it being Arizona State, being another school, not real right there, that place was definitely not full. But yeah, I mean, just college football is great. I love it. I do think there is some push, and I do think there's going to be some talk about changing the calendar. And then also, I think it's just in a couple weeks here, they've got to make a decision on the playoff for next year. It can change, but if they can't come to the agreement what that change is, then it will stay to 12 teams. And I think it really comes down to the Big Ten and SEC agreeing, which right now they don't agree on anything. So right now I think it will go to 16 next year. But would it shock me if it stays at 12? No, and it's not because they want it to be at 12. It's just they can't agree on 16, 24. If it goes to 16, is it 4-4-2-2? Is it, they just won't agree to it. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. They've got to find some common ground as far as the playoff goes. They've got to get these contracts figured out. We've talked about that, hundreds of times on here over the past couple of years, that there's a lot to get figured out in college football. But, Monday night, hopefully it's a good game. And we've got 8 total football games left, 1 college, and then the 7 NFL games are left, divisional, conference championship, and Super Bowl. So it's coming to an end. We got to enjoy them, and hopefully they're all competitive.
Absolutely. And now just, finish here the last 5 minutes or so, switching to basketball. Iowa State Monday, with Michigan losing Saturday, moves up to number 2 in the country. And then last night they traveled to Kansas and just absolutely walked into a hornet's nest. And I knew that, and just didn't come out alive. They got absolutely destroyed in every facet of the basketball game. Kansas is unranked. They were 1 and 2 in the conference. They have really good players in it, and they finally played like it. But same thing happened last year at Iowa State. They get to number 2, and then it doesn't. They just can't. They can't get that signature win on the road. They can't. They come out slow, and that's becoming a problem for Iowa State. They're starting slow, and against Kansas you can't recover. Against Oklahoma State and against West Virginia, you can recover. but not against good teams. But they need to get back on a streak, and they've got a handful of games here that they should win. Nothing's given to you, but Iowa State, one of the best teams in the country, and you knew they weren't going to go undefeated. So is it shocking that they lost at Allen? Absolutely not. But you shouldn't be down 42-16 in the first half. You're a better basketball team than that. And Kansas is not better than you or not that much better than you. They made a run. They got it to 11. They had the ball, and I think Heisey missed a 3 that would have got it to 8. And then you never know, but then it went right back up to 20, and it just kind of stayed there the whole game. And then for the Hawkeyes, tonight they go to Purdue, had the lead for first half, and then I wasn't paying as much attention to it. But they end up losing by 7 on the road at Purdue. Not, again, looking at it from afar, that's fine. But you're super disappointed because you had the lead for a long portion of that game.
Yeah, obviously, if Iowa State men getting their first loss, Iowa's lost a few in a row. Iowa State women are on a little bit of a cold streak themselves. They've had some injuries though. Iowa women have been able to pull out some victories. But I know we're going to talk a little bit of bracketology, kind of mid-season. Yep. I know it's not quite mid-season because you still got the conference tournaments and all that, but I think it's close enough. And I don't know if you've looked at any of the bracketology online. Yep. I've got a couple pulled up, and we may be looking at the same one.
Yep, I got the ESPN ones pulled up.
Okay, I've got the men's pulled up, and are you looking at Iowa State and who they might play?
Yes, and actually, I saw right before we went on. I was talking to Laura about that. In St. Louis, now I did look at this. This was before they lost to Kansas, so Iowa State's still a 1 seed, which they might still be anyway. Mm-hmm. But they're the 1 seed from the Houston bracket, and their first round games are in St. Louis. So they'll have lots of Iowa State fans there. There's a chance that I'm going to make the trip there if they go to St. Louis.
And there's a trip the other side of the state might be joining you.
That's where I'm going to get. And then they play 2 teams have to play each other, and you get one of them, 1 versus 16. But then you go down a line, and it's the 8 seed and the 9 seed. NC State's the 9. The Iowa Hawkeyes are the 8. Could you imagine in St. Louis, Iowa State and Iowa in the second round in the NCAA tournament, for Iowa to have a chance to go to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1999? That would be insane.
That would be chaos. And we've talked about before over the years, Iowa and Iowa State meeting in the NCAA tournament or potentially even a bowl game. Now, the bowl games probably don't do it because then you just basically get the state of Iowa, and that's kind of it. But if it played out like this, and I mean, what would your thoughts be as an Iowa State fan? I mean, would you like to play Iowa and end their season, or would you rather play a different team? Because obviously Iowa State has the better team, but if Sturts and Banks and some of those guys get hot, you know how the NCAA tournament is. All you have to do is get hot for 40 minutes.
They gave Iowa State everything they wanted. That was until they lost last night. That was probably their hardest game. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, do I want to play Iowa and do I want to end their season? The answer to that is yes. We're a better basketball team than them, but that game, especially having it in St. Louis, where you're going to have tons of Iowa fans, tons of Iowa State fans, inside that building was going to be absolutely nuts if that would happen. And I could only imagine, I don't know, and it would have to depend on what the other matchups are, but that would have to be one of the best games of the second round, you would think, just from a storyline perspective.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously the entire state of Iowa would be watching it. It should be a good game. As you mentioned, the first matchup was, and, St. Louis is a really rough place to begin with, but do you imagine after that game, you might have Iowa and Iowa State fans battling out in the streets afterwards.
Ballpark Village is just going to be a battle between the Hawkeyes and Cyclones right out of Scott. Now, I don't know. Since it's the first round, I would think that would just be at the Scott Trade Center. That wouldn't be in the Dome. So it would just be the the hockey arena there and the basketball arena that they use. So I think it's like 20,000 seats. But yeah, I mean, that's insane. And honestly, when you pull up on the ESPN bracketology, that's the first one. It's on the right side. So it's not even like you had to scroll down to find it. It's the top ones.
Yeah, that's when I saw that, I was like, well, we got to talk a little bracketology, because that would just be that would be insane. I mean, I would love that. And then, I don't know if you want to touch on the women's real quick.
Yeah, so it's, and Iowa State lost again tonight. Mm-hmm. So they're in full free for all, but they got two starters not playing for a while. They've got to figure it out. Just looking at this, scrolling down in Iowa City, Iowa's the 4 seed. They play the 13 seed Miami of Ohio, and then the 5-12 would be Alabama and UNLV. So really, when you're on the win, you want to be one of those top 4 seeds.
Yep.
To get a home 2 games to get to the Sweet 16, and then the women do a little bit different, where they only have 2 sites for the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8, Sweet 16 and Elite 8 game. So, and the sites this year are Fort Worth and Sacramento. Let me see if I can find Iowa State.
Sacramento, College Park, and then Sacramento.
Yep. And so they would play Maryland. Former Cyclone Brenda Freeze is the coach there. So that would and they're falling. They're going to be less than that now after the loss to Colorado today. So they need to figure it out. They got to learn to play without 2 of their starters. Coach Bill Finley's been at this a long time. He'll figure it out, hopefully. Yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah, I know when you sent that to me, I knew it as soon as I clicked on that and scrolled down. I knew, like, I see what he sees. But Iowa State and Iowa just need to. Iowa State, you want to win that game at Kansas, but that's one before the year. You chalk up, that's probably a loss. The Purdue one for the Hawkeyes is probably a loss. The one they want back is at Minnesota. So this is a 3-game losing streak for the Hawkeyes. They need to get a win here soon just to turn around. You don't want 2 to turn into 4 and 4 to turn into 6 in a row.
Yeah, for sure. Iowa men got to start racking up some W's. They're losing the teams they're supposed to lose to. They got to beat the teams they're supposed to, and then hopefully pull a couple upsets throughout the year, and maybe win a couple games in the Big Ten tournament, and that way they for sure get in the NCAA tournament, because it would be pretty disappointing if, as of right now today, if they don't make the NCAA tournament and they end up in the NIT somehow. Yeah,
with the start, I think before the season, you would have been okay with bubble / making the tournament, but now we're 2 months into the season and halfway through January. What you've done so far, now if you don't make the tournament, it's a disappointment for sure.
Absolutely. With Sturts and these players that have played together, it definitely would be a disappointment. And, for the Iowa women, they're a young team. We're very fortunate to have Chit Chat right on the team. She's a very good scorer for us. So they're young. We'll see if they get any better, but I hope they can hold one of those top 4 seeds that you mentioned on the women's side, because then they get 2 games in Iowa City, which could be a big help. And I don't know, depending after Iowa City, if they end up somewhere out west in Sacramento or something, maybe I'll have to go watch them. But
they go to Fort Worth if it stays the way it is right now. So they're in the.
You're right. That would be Iowa State that would go to Sacramento. So
yes,
they would go to Fort Worth. Never mind. So maybe I won't go watch them. But maybe if Iowa and Iowa State men it up in St. Louis, I might have to come back for that one.
So for sure. All right, Trev, we're right at about an hour, a little over. Another great weekend of sports with, the NFL playoffs and then the college championship game and basketball games for all of our major teams. And it's just time to, get wins, stay healthy, and just start positioning yourself for the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament. It's just that time of year where everybody's playing 2 times a week in basketball, and you just play good basketball, and you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And, for Iowa State, you need to win almost all of them with where you're at in Iowa. There's certain games that are going to be very difficult. You need to pull out, just like you said, you need to pull out an upset. And then the ones that you're favored in, you need to win. rack up those wins to solidify yourself to get into the tournament.
That's right. Basketball teams kind of need to get back on track here in the state of Iowa. And then obviously we've got all the football games this weekend, national title Monday. And then you and I will get together probably next week, either Tuesday or Wednesday, and we'll recap everything that's happened.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you later.
All righty. Have a good one.